Los Angeles, I'm and most Hollywood nights. She goes to California, oh, California.
What you say about Los Angeles?
LA got the people saying.
You're listening to Corner of the Galaxy on cornerofthegalaxy.com. Welcome to Corner of the Galaxy, the show that talks 100% LA Galaxy soccer. We're glad you could join us. Now it's time to sit back and relax as your hosts navigate through the twisting, turning, but never boring world of your six-time MLS Cup champion, LA Galaxy.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Corner of the Galaxy on cornerofthegalaxy.com. I'm your host, Josh Guesman, coming to you on a Thursday, June 26th. The LA Galaxy, 2-0 losers in Colorado, but the real losers of all of us for 90 minutes, more than 90 minutes because of the delay and the weather, but 90 minutes of our time, really. We're going to talk about that game. We're going to talk about the game coming up as well against San Jose on Saturday night at Stanford Stadium. The Galaxy will be traveling up on Saturday morning to get to that game. So we'll sort of go through all those All-Star Game stuff, not that it matters, and some other little hints, little nuggets, little news nuggets that we can pop in there. To help me do all that, we are glad to have him back. It's Mr. Eric, the Portuguese Hammer Vieira. Eric, how you doing, buddy?
Doing all right. Personally, I'm okay. But from an LA Galaxy fan perspective, man, they made us stay up late for that. Oh, and I'm on Central Time.
Yeah.
And we had to go through that. See, I was talking about this with you, before the mics went hot. The show last week, when there was no game to preview, it was much more fun when it was hypothetical land and there weren't actual games to talk about. But now we have to actually talk about the losses and go into a little bit of a depression here. So rough times.
I mean, we could just say, "Oh, the same stuff happened again." All right, good night, everybody. Yeah. Thanks for showing up. That's our show. Watch. We'll just do it. There we go. See,
the Corner of the Galaxy.
There we go. Goodbye, everybody. Thank you for coming. Yeah, no, hold it. No, we're not going to do that. But the idea that the LA Galaxy, and I blame myself. Really, I blame myself. The idea that the LA Galaxy offense had figured itself out, and I was like, "Oh, they figured it out. They're there. Everything's going to go." I was wrong. I was wrong again. What do you know? Not a surprise. I am amazed that you have all that time off, and that is the performance that you decide you're going to put out. And I asked Greg Vanney afterwards, and I phrased my question sort of in this way. You didn't think it looks like maybe you guys were missing that sort of that dynamic movement. I go, the ability to sort of create or have an edge, right? Like have this little bit of something else that we've seen over the last two games. It's not a large sample size, but the last two games, the RSL game and the game against St. Louis, we saw an LA Galaxy team that looked like they wanted to win games. And you're like, oh, okay, they want to play now. Oh, okay, cool. They're, timeout's over. It's time to go. And so you saw that there was an edge. There was sort of this little bit of a flare. There was the dynamism that you got from the movements up the wings and all this stuff. And then you go into Colorado and listen, the 2-hour delay doesn't help, but guess what? As you texted me and you were 100% right. We could talk about the delay. We could talk about the fact that you played one game in 4 weeks, and that basically the next game that you have to play is at altitude, which is a place you don't want to play. Greg Vanney even said so, right? You get to talk about that stuff. I agree, 100%. I agree with the delay screws you. I believe that I agree that going to Colorado is not the best place that you want to go
first
after.
Game back, yep.
But it doesn't matter because you lost all the goodwill already. There is no more goodwill. There's nobody has any more patience. And by the way, sometimes it might just be better and I always appreciate Greg talking. So but sometimes I feel like it's just better. Like, no, it wasn't a good game. Thanks for coming. The whole deal. And by the way, he was, and I think I wrote this on one. So whenever I'm usually waiting for the press conference to start, I start writing down questions, like just some general basic ideas that I'm thinking about. Like, oh, I know I'm only going to get probably 2 questions, especially because they were late and they were trying to get to their plane and leave. So we were limited to about 2 questions and it had to be quick. But, you know, I had 2 questions, but I wrote like 6 or 7. And one of them was was this the way that you guys trained before this? And
did you do this on purpose?
Yeah, right. Like I just, the whole thing. And Greg even said in his thing, he goes, this is not how we trained over the last 2 weeks. Yeah. Like he goes, so, you know, seeing that performance there is not what we expected to see. Certainly not what he expected to see. So I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed that people went to that game and had to sit underneath through all that weather, and then had to watch that apathetic performance. It was like whatever. It was like, oh, okay, whatever. We're just out here.
It was running through the motions. That's what I was kind of texting through is. You know, I mentioned last week, I said, okay, we're going to see, can they play for pride with the season essentially wrapped up and too deep of a hole? You know, are they going to be able to show us something, show some fight, play for the badgeness, you know, that type of thing. And it wasn't happening. And I text you and you hinted on it and, you know, you stole my point. But basically the excuses that I knew Greg Vanney was probably going to get skewered by the fan base for the excuses, but they were all valid. You know, when you haven't played a game in a while and you're not having a great season, having your first game back to shake off the rust at altitude is a tough putt. Regardless, this is why you've seen teams who are top of the league or top of the conference go into Colorado and struggle. The Galaxy are not alone to go into Colorado and struggle, and you give the rust factor going into this, it makes sense. Then the weather delay being an issue, and you know you get your body clock ready to go. You know, for drink if you had body clock on the on the podcast drinking game.
I didn't say it. I just want to point that out.
I got to pad the stats, but that doesn't help. And then you get yourself up for the game, and then you have to wind yourself back down, and then get back yourself. That's a valid concern and a reason why you would come out disjointed. But to your point, you've lost all of the goodwill. You know, you have this type of game in 2024. You say, hey, this was a road game at altitude, all those factors, you kind of give them a pass. But when you're winless on the road and you're looking for something to hang your hat on, and you see the performances from some of these players that were kind of embarrassing, and these are players who had, MVP of the team level, seasons last year, and to have them go out there and just, lay a dookie out on the field, it's not good. It makes you walk away, feel like there's a little bit of hopelessness with this season, just given the results. But then you see the performances match that hopelessness, and that it really kind of digs you in a deep hole. You mentioned you felt like this was a worse performance than the Red Bull game, which was a 7-0 loss.
Right.
I feel like that one was a, you come out and you just get massacred and you get beat up and like you just have to take the L on that one. This one was like a smothering of the pillow, a slow, suffocating, just like there was not even
there's
something
no drama.
where you tip the cap. Yeah,
there was no. It wasn't like, oh man, this is just like, oh, I guess the score's just and to be fair, we look at the starting lineup and I thought I think this is the Galaxy's correct. Yeah. Exactly. I think it's the A+ lineup that the Galaxy have right now. I don't know what that means in terms of, is that not what people want to see, type of thing. But for me, this is A+. It's everything the Galaxy have. The only thing that's missing is Ricky Puig, and then you can argue about where he plays, and it's probably Marco Royce sitting on the bench for a little bit. That's the answer. So I had no problems with this. There was nothing in this that you said, oh no, the Galaxy. See, this is why I say it's worse than the New York game, because the New York game they tried something really different, right? Yes. And different formation and the whole deal. And so I can sort of understand how you didn't feel comfortable in that formation and that you were trying something new and how it could get out of hand for you, right? 100% got it. No problems. For this, what are the excuses? What, you're not used to this formation? You're not used to this lineup? Like, these are all the people who've been playing. There's nothing in this to say, oh, we felt uncomfortable and that's what. No. You came out, and by the way, I thought the Galaxy actually came out in the first 5-10 minutes. Actually, good. I thought they were breaking presses on Colorado, and I was like, Colorado's going to have some problems here because there were
moments,
right? Mm-hmm. And then, as it has been for most of the season, the LA Galaxy give up of the first goal, and that starts. And again, off a bad turnover, and the ball gets turned over into the center of the field, and it's just like you just know they're coming. You can see it coming, in the whole deal. And then from that point on, game was over. It was sort of. Greg talked about how he thought that in the second half, and even Edwin Cerrillo afterwards talked about in the second half how they thought, they played better, and I guess they did, but I never felt like they were in danger of breaking Colorado. I didn't think there was anything there.
That's the biggest difference between the 2025 LA Galaxy and the 2024 LA Galaxy is you never feel dangerous. You never feel like the Galaxy is going to get in behind and score that goal. We'll just mention it. Joseph Paintsill had himself a horror show yesterday. I feel like we broke him. He's just not that same guy. He's constantly just running directly into defenders when that's not his game. His game is getting in behind, letting those passes go in there. But there were so many times he just is running directly into, the opposing defense, and he's looking for the foul. And I do think that there are a lot of situations earlier in the season where he maybe should have gotten some calls that are not going his way. But, what's the definition of insanity is trying the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. And you're seeing him just run into players and hoping that the referee, calls a foul, and it's just not working out for Paintsill. So I feel like he's really been in a tough situation. The shots on goal are not close. When he has opportunities to dish the ball out, he's not getting rid of it when he needs to. There was a run in the opening half where Gabriel Peck is making a run down the wing completely open, completely unmarked, waving his hand in the air, and Paintsill decides to continue to dribble, doesn't dish it off, and then he just gives this kind of really weak shot right at the goalkeeper that was uninspired, and you see Peck's frustration, the hands go up, and then he's no longer tracking back on defense.
Yep.
So now you have defensive issues. So it just, all these issues continue to build on one another. And the other part of it, once you let in the goal, then of course that's when things all go sideways, and then you start to nitpick these things. Micevic, who seems to be, that's his starting spot now. You think, well, could he have done better? Is it a Micevic thing? I know there was a bad turnover, and you hate to nitpick the goalkeeper because when you're getting those live shots in game, it's a lot easier said than done sitting on the couch. Oh, why didn't he put his hand down here? It's not that simple. But then when you are having no wins on the road, you start to nitpick those things, and the frustration starts to build, and it just, they're digging themselves in a really, really nasty situation. And especially when you consider that was the A lineup.
Yeah.
Colorado had a list of injured players. Ricky Puig is the only player injured for the LA Galaxy. Everyone else is available. This is our best available. And so that goes back to, if you want to hit rinse and repeat on our podcast that we've been doing over, the results are who you say you are. Like, the results tell you how good you are. And I think if this is our best team, and our best team is a 2-0 shutout where we just look like we're out of ideas, then maybe we do deserve the 8 points and deserve to be in 30th place. And this is who we are. That if this is the best we have, and that's the effort that went forward, then yeah, that's the last place team that I saw out there against Colorado.
Yeah, that was one of the few times this year that I've really been like, oh, they're just not in it. They're not going to win this game. And I think you could have seen it at halftime. You're like, oh, they're not going to win this game. I am shocked and amazed by Joseph Paintsill right now. I don't know how to explain it. I will say this, same with Gabriel Peck. Hey, you don't want the ball played to your feet? Stop being in a position where people are going to play the ball to your feet. You're running into those positions, and then people are playing into your feet, and you're like, oh, they played it to their feet. The couple times the Galaxy were dangerous, they hit balls around the corner and they got those guys in running positions. That's the dynamic movement. That's how it is. I asked Greg Vanny about the offense and why the offense was, and he goes, again, it's the dynamic movement in trying to create those guys. Joseph Paintsill isn't creating it. A couple times they got him around the corner, and all of a sudden things were happening, right? Nascimento, by the way, I thought had a decent game for a guy who was not getting a lot of service, and then was able to cut the ball back, 2 or 3 times where Royce and Peck arrived at the same time in the same place and couldn't get shots on goal and couldn't knock things in? And my question is, if you're going to play Nascimento to those spots, which is you're playing him outside the goal, then
is that what you want from your striker?
Right.
Yeah. Why is your striker doing that? Yeah. That's my question. Your striker should be the one who's in the position, like a Dejan Jovic, who's there to bang in the goals, not to do your hold-up play. And that was the game, I mentioned this on the pod before, that I was kind of surprised. I didn't expect Nascimento, not seeing his game before, that he was going to be more of a hold-up and kind of more, not necessarily the target striker who's going to bang the goals in, but he's going to be someone who helps kind of create those situations. Well, then do we need a second forward who's going to be, you need him up there with Ramirez, because if he's going to do that and we don't have the player who's going to be that lethal threat, then something's wrong and something needs to change. Which, to the Red Bulls' point, if they had a different lineup there and it didn't work, so you go back to what's old reliable, what's worked for you. Well, this was old reliable and it's not working. So let's get the whiteboard out. Let's try something different, because old reliable is not working anymore. So maybe you do need to run a 4-4-2. Maybe you do need to run something different. Work with 3 center backs and then figure out something with your your fullbacks to push forward, because what's happening right now is not working.
It's so crazy to me to watch the intensity level drop as much as it did in that game. Like, that game was it was a stroll in the park. It's like those guys were out there training on a Monday, after a game. It was so and you're still getting just incomplete performances from Yoshida. Just really bad performances. I mean, John Nelson, by the way, in this game
generous,
too. Yeah. I mean, and John Nelson didn't have a good game in this too. You put both of those guys together, and you're sort of like, what are you guys doing? I mean, Yoshida, I did tweet out that Yoshida was giving away balls like Oprah. You get a ball, everybody gets a ball. And it was just constant turnovers. And I understand the ability to try to create from back there and try to thread passes through and do stuff. You need some of that, and I'm okay with. Quite honestly, I'm okay with the Galaxy trying things, because stuff isn't working. So, hey, try to thread something. Try to break 2-3 lines, right, whenever you're trying to get the ball through on some of the stuff. But, his defensive work is not there. I mean, I see people who's like, well, he got a pay cut, and that just... No, he's old. This is what happens. Remember, everybody... and it wasn't you, although... I don't know that you disagreed with Kevin, but Baxter was on here going, I can't believe the guy who played every minute of every game would take a pay cut and for the next year. Well, of course he would. He's old. Like, you can't keep relying on these guys.
Yeah, it wasn't me. We'll talk about the Gabriel Peck rumors, I'm sure, later on. I was ready to wave goodbye to my Yoshida, because I measure this in championships. If that roster got us to a championship, mission accomplished. We did it, Joe. We got it. And then we can rebuild and reload. Everyone who's a little bit longer in the tooth, you give yourself a window to kind of rebuild and reload and do it. So, I wouldn't have been upset if my Yoshida found another club and we found someone else to kind of take his place, or if Jalen Neal was the one who was going to slide in, and we'll talk about salaries and where that might fit in. But yeah, it's just been a disappointing performance. I think the issue with the pay cut and maybe his remarks that we've covered on this show is that was something that was in the back of people's mind. Right. And these players are professional. We've been around Maya Yoshida for a long time, that this is someone who takes the game seriously, takes his job seriously. He's not going to go out there and sandbag it. But when you have these performances, then that opens the door. Like I said, the nitpicking, okay, well, maybe it is the pay cut. Maybe he doesn't have that same passion. It doesn't have to be true, but that window is now open because the performances have taken a dip. Right. And so it's just the unfortunate way that it's going right now.
But it's one of the reasons why, people were upset that Billy Sharp didn't come back, after the whole thing. And it's like, again, I've watched this now. I watched it with Robbie Keane, where the Galaxy probably held on to Robbie Keane one too many years, right? And it was like, but that was Robbie Keane. Like, and it was like, no, if you remember at the end, he was coming off the bench. I think was it in 15 or 16? 15?
15. It was at Colorado. It was in the playoffs.
And he was coming off the bench. Him and Gerard were coming off the bench. Yep. And you're like, yeah, because that's it. That's all you're going to get out of these guys anymore, and the whole deal. And I sort of start to feel that way for Yoshida. I certainly feel that way for Zonka, and coming in, and I think they thought that I think that there was hope that Yoshida could come back and still have, even if it wasn't at the level that it was, that it would be good. But he hasn't been good. I don't know that it's his partnerships that are the problem. It's individual stuff for me.
His performance has taken a dip. And this is someone who, while we appreciated his service last year, and I'm going to keep banging this drum, he didn't have a flawless season last season. He didn't. There were moments where it's like, man, remember the people wanting changes with the defense and the Galaxy defense going into the playoffs. Are they going to have to win these games, 6-2, 6-3, 4-3, 4-2? they did have to do that, and part of that was, Yoshida was not exactly the stalwart, brick wall back there. You dealt with it with some of those errors because the offense was humming, but now the warts are kind of starting to reveal themselves.
Well, and we had the Julian Aude rumor that we sort of put some cold water on last week, and then it turned out it wasn't Aude. It was Bravo from up in Portland that ended up going to.
I mix those guys up all the time. So totally get it.
Argentinos Jr. And so that ended up happening. So Aude, but what does Aude have to do to get more playing time? It even goes beyond this. And I think I wanted to ask this question. It just wasn't the top priority of my two questions that I wanted to ask. Why was Marco Royce on the field for 90 minutes in this game?
That's in my notes. Why is Marco Royce going a full 90? And I have a side tangent here to go off the rails just a little bit. Can we get a photo of Marco Royce on the website? This isn't an unknown academy player that we need the gray, Facebook avatar. We don't know who this guy is. This is Marco freaking Royce. We can put his picture on the website. I don't understand why a season and a half into his tenure, he still doesn't have a picture on there. That's my side tangent. Okay. But why is he playing 90 minutes? If, like you said, the game at the half looked like it was essentially settled. This is someone who has injury concerns at altitude. You're losing by 2 goals. Take him off. What are we trying to do? I don't know what we're accomplishing by having Marco Royce on the field down 2-0 in a situation where the team looks devoid of ideas. The counter argument, I guess, would be if Marco Royce has been your MVP and the only one who looks like he can create something, right? You want to have your one creator out there. But at the same time, with his injury concern, I wrap him up much sooner. A full 90 away at Colorado after being a little bit rusty. That sounds like a disaster if you were playing this. If you're playing this in like Football Manager, you wouldn't have kept him out for 90 minutes.
Well, and then there's the Saturday game. You have a Saturday game coming up. It's short rest. It's all those things. I don't get that at all, especially with Diego Fagundes. He still came into the game. He was still able to play. You could have swapped him out, and the score would have been the same, right? I'm all for trying to find things and trying to find a goal in that, but the Galaxy seemed like they weren't going to find a goal. Again, I think the Galaxy and Greg Vanny are of the opinion that they play better in the second half. That's certainly what they've said. I guess if your performance in the first half was a 5 and your performance in the second half is a 30 out of 100, then yes, you did play better in the second half. It just wasn't like it was going to happen.
And we say it all the time. What's the issue when you go up 2-0, one of the most dangerous leads in the game? The team lets their foot off the gas. So okay, you had a better second half against a team that let their foot off the gas, and you still couldn't get a goal.
It was bunkering.
Like, okay, yeah.
I mean, they were just like, okay,
that says something too.
Yeah, no, you could certainly see it. So, I look at this. Sanabria had not a great game. He got a yellow card early. Greg Vanny mentioned that he thought he wasn't used to the altitude and ran himself into the ground real fast and was sort of like, oh, he's suffering in this game. And you saw it. He looked, he had a giveaway that led to a goal and some other things that are in that. And you need him to be really good. I think Cerrillo is one of those guys who you're trying to rely on so much, and he has been really, really steady. Hats off to him for playing his game when the Galaxy aren't playing their game around him. Yeah. I think he's been pretty good. He's one of the few guys who's playing defense. Marco Royce, I love it in the chat room. I think it was Patrick who said it, but somebody said Marco Royce played more defense than Yoshida, which is true. The back check coming a couple times from Royce, and some of the back pressure that he got. And again, the Galaxy got out in a couple chances. They got out running a little bit, and Joseph Paints, I don't know, I don't understand where the complete lack of understanding of where to put the ball is, because this is a guy who scored 10 goals last year and had 10 plus assists. He was a 10 and 10, wasn't he?
Yeah. And the same with Peck. Peck's run into the same thing. I think the difference, and where you could have put this podcast on repeat in previous games, is they were getting the looks, but the shots were just, going wide, going right at the keeper. They're not even getting the looks anymore, because the looks that they're creating, they're not really getting. They're kind of forced, right? And to your point, they're just not in the right spot at all, not even close to being threatening and making something happening. So that's the concern. Now I know some people roll their eyes at XG, but you're not even like that pass against St. Louis to Nascimento. That doesn't even register in XG.
Yeah.
And so like that's a perfect example of you're getting so close to almost creating something, but then you're not even getting something that registers. Right. And that's a real rough situation. Yeah. 0.8. Yeah. I don't know how many games you're going to win with that as your XG.
To 1, by the way, I would like to point out Colorado had a 1 and the Galaxy had a 0.8. Right. And so if you looked at that, you would say, oh, well, it's probably a pretty close game. It wasn't. And that's sort of the thing. I mean, 14
and
shots.
14 shots to 8. Yep.
Yeah. None of those shots were scary. Like there was a couple that I think one Peck got him to chase one into the post. Right. And you were like, "Oh man, that was a good shot."
That was at the beginning of the game. Yeah.
At the very beginning of the game, that was what it. I mean, look at you had almost 2/3 possession, and usually that's a death knell right there. You have that much possession, you're losing the game because the other team's sort of sitting back. But I just, to me, 5 shots on target, but maybe one of those actually tested somebody. So you're just not getting it, and the fact is, the Galaxy looked like they didn't want to be there. And I haven't seen that a lot from this team this year.
Yeah.
People can argue, and I'm like, I will happily say that I think we're level-headed enough to realize that for a lot of the losses this year, the Galaxy were at least in the game, and you were like, okay, they have a chance.
And we've gotten flack for that. Yeah, we've gotten flack for saying that because how can you say the team in last place when they're almost winning these games? There's almost in these games. When we talked to Diego Fagundes, he kind of agreed with that assessment, and he felt that way. And so I can agree with you that in this game, they were not in this game.
No.
And so that's a bad sign heading into, okay, you're already in last place, and then now you're showing a lack of interest. This can get can this get worse? Yes. It can't get much worse. And so that's the scary thing.
Yeah, I mean that is one of the things that we sort of have to watch. How does this get worse? The Galaxy have been shut out 8 times. One of the biggest things that we continue to talk about is the fact that the Galaxy's defense, it's been bad. The offense has been equally poor. And they're both on records right now, basically to set really bad
historic
stuff. Yeah, historic stuff. So 19 games played. The Galaxy have scored 18 goals. Right now, they're only projected to score 32 goals and give up 73 goals. We can sort of look at that in the tech context of what it's been recently. The 2020 season was a really bad season, and we can project it across 34 games and sort of look at that, and we do. So, roughly, they would have scored 42 goals in 2020 had they played 34 games instead of the 22. They would have given up 71 goals, and right now the Galaxy are looking at like they're going to give up 73.4. It's hard for me to argue this isn't the worst LA Galaxy team ever. Having seen those other teams in 2017 or 2000, or excuse me, 2007, and then 2023 and then 2020, like having seen those teams, I feel like this team is far from the worst of them. For me, it's always going to be 2017, and I've talked about that. But look, I mean, here we can look at a chart right now, and you can just sort of tell me. I mean,
I think Roman Alessandrini wills the 2017 Galaxy team to beat the 2025 LA Galaxy team.
Maybe he turns the corner and he runs.
Yeah. And to put it into context, the projections for the Galaxy's goals this season is going to be 32-ish goals. In 2019, Zlatan Ibrahimovic by himself had 31 goals.
Right.
And that was a team that made the playoffs and was in contention. But that tells you everything you need to know. We've had a player score almost as many goals as what is projected for an entire season. We can talk about the defense and how bad it's been, but the offense is right there, just as bad, if not worse.
By the way, it was Jonathan who said that Royce played more defense than Yoshida last night. And then Mr. Provino says, is the cause of the players, coaching, the front office, or is this really who the organization is as a whole right now? It's going to be a combo of everything, because people think that, and I'm not trying to do this to protect him for Will Kuntz, but like that he had a choice in some of the moves that he had. He knew he had to move people. You've seen what the LA Galaxy have done in terms of general allocation money. You know what the cap space is. It's 0. They would have been non-roster compliant had they not done what they needed to do. So yeah, you wish that you could have kept Mark Delgado. That would have been really nice, but he was an asset, and it's one of those guys who had value. By the way, maybe not a ton of value, maybe just enough value to get him to go to LAFC and move the roster, move the salary. The Galaxy went so far as to move Gaston Brugman, get back somebody like Sean Davis, knowing that they were going to cut him loose on it, because it was better to buy out the contracted Davis at a lower number than to buy out a contract like Gaston Brugman's or somebody else's that they had at a higher number. They actually saved money on the deal, which is nuts. So, and where do you put the blame for that? That's years past of everything sort of coming to a head. And then you say, well, maybe the Galaxy shouldn't have signed Marco Reus in the middle of the year. If the Galaxy come in and get into MLS Cup and lose MLS Cup, not saying Marco Reus was the difference in this, right? But if the Galaxy get to MLS Cup, maybe they were a player away, like that type of thing. Like, you can argue that maybe you have to take the shot whenever you think that you have this window.
Here's my argument why Marco Reus was needed for the championship run last season. The second he started getting on the field for the LA Galaxy, Ricky Puig lifted his game to a different level to either impress Royce or because he felt like he had someone at a different caliber. And I think we didn't see superstar, Ricky Puig, who had the Mario star of invincibility, until Marco Reus joined the team. So Marco Reus, just by virtue of being there, I think created a championship run for this team with his experience and everything that he brought. And I think he lifted Ricky's game to another level. And I think that made the difference last season.
Could have been. But my whole thing is that whenever you have a chance to go all in, you go all in, and you kind of don't worry about what the ramifications are for the next year. Could the Galaxy have moved somebody like Diego Fagundes instead of Mark Delgado? And that's certainly a question that pops up. I don't know the answer to that. Again, everybody thinks that these players are wanted all over the place. And a lot of times what we're seeing in Major League Soccer is that there is not a huge market for players that are of a certain salary, of a certain way. So it's way more limited than it looks. I know that Gaston Brugman, like, you think Gaston Brugman could go play a bunch of different places in Major League Soccer. I believe there were 2 teams that wanted Gaston Brugman, and one of them ended up not taking him for some reasons, and then he goes to Nashville, right? Like, that type of thing. So to me, you look at that and you can say, okay, there's not a big market. You're already in the situation you're in, but you're in the situation you're in because at some point you decided to go full in on MLS Cup. And I can understand that. So there's never going to, I don't think you should be punished for trying to win something, but there's ramifications for it. And you're now living in those ramifications.
And it worked. I think that's the part that I think maybe gets lost in this, and why I'm almost a defeatist in it. But I think something, when we talked to Kuntz a little bit more often last season, obviously when things are going well, but he did mention, hey, when he came in, he had to go ask, hat in hand for the money to bring in Paintsill and to bring in Peck. And that was not a cheap investment to get those players. I don't think every single year you can go to Uncle Phil and ask for the cash to reload every single season. So to an extent, he went all in last year. It worked, and then we're never going to be able to replicate that. You can't do that year after year. Now, maybe given how this season has gone, maybe you say, hey, we do need to reload for next year. And then now next year becomes a different conversation. But I can rationalize how, you're not going to break the bank and make things work this season because you had just finished doing that by going all in.
So now you're putting yourself in a position to have to rely on some guys who maybe aren't the top in terms of what money you need and how you want to do it. And so, it's tough there. You're getting guys at a different price point to come in. I mean, we're going to look at salaries here in a second, but Jacob, by the way, $5 super chat. When is it time to throw the towel on Yoshida? Dude just sat there and watched Mihailovic on the first goal. Not for the first time this season. Not wrong. And I don't think that listen, the towel isn't going to get thrown this season. All right. That's your easy answer.
Does he know anyone else who plays center back? Because right now it's a pretty thin lineup on who you want back there. I don't know tons of better options that you're going to have at center back there.
No, it's not. And again, just look at the performances that you have on this. Look at all the oranges, from FOTMob. And by the way, I don't disagree with most of this, except for Peck at a 7.4. I don't know what he did deserve to 7.4.
That shot at the beginning of the game.
That must have been it. That's that boost.
It was it was work rate from him. He was working. It wasn't.
Sometimes he was working.
It wasn't great, but I I figured the dribbles and the getting in behind. I could see. I didn't hate Peck's performance.
No,
given everything else that I saw from the team.
No, there's plenty of like things to just disgust you on many different levels, and you're like, oh, okay.
It's all there's levels to that. Yeah.
I can't. And I think Vanny talked a little bit about it, but it's those guys have to put themselves in better positions, and that goes for Paintsel and that goes for Peck. You have to be able to give them the lanes to be able to play that ball through the back line. Somebody said, I think the league has the LA Galaxy's offense figured out. I don't know that that's true. I think when the LA Galaxy execute, that they can create chances. They're not executing.
The Galaxy are out of ideas or not getting there. I don't think it's the league figuring them out. I think it's them, to your point, not executing.
So anyway, by the way, no truth to the rumor that Don Garber's considering. Remember how we always said you can't take the trophy out of the cabinet? Well, if maybe they're
there's
considering
no retroactive.
I don't know.
Removing it there.
It's like you get to keep the trophy always, unless you finish with the wooden spoon after winning an MLS Cup. Then we get to take the trophy back, and that type of thing. The losing percentage, by the way, almost 70% of the games the LA Galaxy have lost this year. I would just like to point out last year they lost 23.5% of the total games, right? So there's a fun little
flip. Yeah, we totally flipped it on that one.
55.9% winning percentage last year, 5.3% winning percentage so far this year. By the way, the chances of winning the league, I think, are like 3-point-something% or something like that. And the Galaxy's winning percentage might end up being that 3%, right?
I was going to say, it's not zero. The fact that it's not zero is still impressive.
The 3% is just based off of taking 30 teams and dividing that by, dividing 1 by 30. That's it. That's all you're getting out of that, right? So there's no actual algorithm to, if you figure everybody has an equal chance every year to win an MLS Cup, then you divide that. That's how you get that number. So I wouldn't put a lot of stock or faith into it.
We are going to get to a point, and it might be sooner than we think, where it's going to be mathematically impossible for. Yeah. So we have to be knocking on that door soon.
The Galaxy will be eliminated from the playoffs soonish. I mean, we're almost there, right? And so that's something to keep in mind as well. If they win, they can sort of fight that off as long as possible. But I mean, you would hope that in let's see, what could we say? You would hope that it doesn't happen by the end of August, right? Like that.
August 1st.
August 1st. Yeah.
Before you play in the Campeones Cup, you already know you're eliminated from playoff contention. That's not where you want to be.
You can focus on that. So lots of different charts look at lots of different things. But the LA Galaxy's one green box there in this whole thing. Crazy, just craziness. And again, 14 times this season, the LA Galaxy have allowed the first goal. They are 0-10-4 whenever that happens, and outscored almost 3-1 at this point. 28 goals for, 10 goals against. 10 goals for, 28 goals against for the LA Galaxy in terms of whenever they allow the first goal. By the way, them scoring the first goal, they have a 1-3-1 record right now. So it's not like that solves all the problems, right?
That's the disheartening part about that chart is you think, okay, scoring first, okay, maybe you're not going to win all of them, but only winning one of them and drawing one of them, only getting 2 out of those 5 where you walk away with points. That's the disheartening part is, okay, even when we, this is one of your favorite stats, score first, and it gets a lot easier from there.
It does.
But even when you do that, it doesn't work. And that's where the frustration with this team. Yeah. Shout out to Sophie, who's also in the chat.
Yeah, no.
With their Highbury squad, basically ripping this team to shreds, and rightfully so.
Yeah. We were Sophie was up. She's on the other side of the world right now, and so she was up at 8 a.m. last night. Whenever we were getting to the end of it, even hopped on the press conference for a little bit.
What a legend!
So we should ask Greg a question from the Mediterranean there. So always good to have Soph, and we appreciate all of her wisdom. Again, got a good answer out of Greg. It was an interesting one. Go watch the press conference. See how we did. There's a rumor out there right now with Gabriel Peck and Palmeiras in Brazil. I'll tell you, I did reach out to try to find out some information on this. The bottom line is there's nothing there right now in terms of I don't have any information to share with you. I think it's interesting if the Galaxy wanted to, if the number was right, maybe you do, because I don't know that you planned on having Peck for so long, but it would possibly open up a move that you could make in the thing. Could you move Cuevas in there for a little bit and the rest of the season, like that type of thing? What would you do? I don't think there's anything to it because I think the Galaxy are banking on the fact that they're going to have Paintsel, they're going to have Peck, and they're going to have Puig for next year, and that everybody's sort of settled and knows what they're doing, and nobody's looking for different things. And to me, Peck's next step is a European destination and maybe not so much of a Brazilian destination.
Yeah, this feels almost white flaggish because it feels like a sideways-ish move. If you were to go back to Brazil with Palmeiras, and not to say that Palmeiras isn't an upgrade, they're playing in the Club World Cup. I believe they had some games in there, so it's a team. It's not a nobody in the Brazilian league. But I think you're right. It comes down to if the number is correct, given that the season is a wash. Are you willing to get rid of Gabriel Peck and reload and start the season? It would be kind of an admission of guilt if they sold him and they said, okay, we need to start all over next season again because we got rid of too many of important pieces. We thought we can fill these gaps and it didn't work out. So if we have an offer for Peck and the number's right, we're going to get rid of him and reload. I do think that there is something to saying, okay, we won an MLS Cup with the Triple Ps, and so let's try to run it back for next year when you have a fully healthy Ricky Puig, and maybe when Paintsil gets rid of the yips and whatever he has going on, and you kind of figure things out. Maybe you make it work. But I'll also point out that back to the Yoshida point where I would have been okay with him walking away after MLS Cup, there was some interest from Europe for Gabriel Peck, and it's like, if you measure this in championships and Gabriel Peck got you a championship and someone's offering, a double digit, with the millions, 15 million, 18 million, do you say, hey, we got a great season out of it. We got a ring. You want to be in Europe? Let's move you along. Maybe they could have pulled the trigger while the iron was hot. And I understand why they did it. But then now it's like, does the value go lower? And now it's not Atletico Madrid. It's not Arsenal sniffing around. It's Palmeiras who's sniffing around. Right. And so that kind of changes that dollar amount that you're going to be able to get from him because he is an investment. He is one of those younger players. And so, again, the number has to be correct because then you have to turn around and then use that to reload whoever you're going to put in that spot. For this season, I think it's totally irrelevant to this season, moving Gabriel Peck. I think this season is essentially done. And it's just a matter of you can put Cuevas there, you can put Fagundes out there. And so now you're basically already reloading for next season if you decide to make this move.
Yeah, we got a super chat from Gus, $10 super chat. Paintsil is the weakest link, not the weakest player. He needs to stop. He needs to drop the ego on the bench. Bench Paintsil. I don't know that helps anybody. I mean, ultimately, who are you going to play in that position, and are they going to be? And listen, I get it. People want. They want punishment right now. They want
blood. We're out for blood.
Bench Yoshida and bench Peck and bench Paintsil, bench everybody. And what did Thomas say at the beginning of it? If you're over 28 years old, just play the kids, right? And
play the academy, play the U19s. They just want a trophy.
They're fine. Call up for Dylan Vanny ASAP, right?
Yeah, there you go.
Get that going. People would lose their minds if Dylan Vanny got called up. I'm just want to preface that off the top of it. By the way,
the prince that was promised. Yeah.
By the way, I think that Dylan Vanny should get a call up here, and I think you could pull it called out like Leagues Cup or something
Leagues
like
Cup
that.
Feels like the moment. Yep.
I think he's been working. I think he's been putting in the minutes. I think it's time to get a little splash of the professional. He may have to go up to Next Pro in order to be able to sort of come up and make some of these appearances because his academy system technically not in that full pro position yet.
I believe he is in Ventura County.
Yeah, he is playing for Next Pro. Yeah, that's true.
So,
you are right.
So that would work out.
Yeah.
With the benching Paintsil, and again, I understand where Gus is coming from. Shout out to Gus for the super chat there. But I think it's a little bit different than the Garces situation. The Garces benching was punitive. It was, okay, you put us in a real bad situation. You're making some decisions that are that require punishment. And I understand Paintsil, while it's frustrating to watch, I don't know that anything has happened to where you say, hey, you did something that put us in such a bad spot that you need to hit the bench. And he's at we're at the mercy of our depth. To your point, okay, you're going to bench Paintsil. Then what? Who you're putting in that spot? That's the upgrade that's worth doing it. That's where it starts to kind of lose its steam. As frustrating as Paintsil is to watch, he hasn't done something that, miss a sitter, go in, cleats up, full Douglas Costa, body slam someone to say, okay, you need to hit the bench and relax for a little bit. I understand playing him through it and hope that he just kind of works it out and figures it out. But I understand the frustration and the, being out for blood for right now.
Gus, by the way, $2 super chat adds on. He goes, I said that since last season as well, right? Ooh. So I mean, just
spicy take, even with the 10 goals.
Yeah,
I love it.
My thing here's the guy in Paintsville that after MLS Cup is sitting in his locker, nice and quiet, while everybody's going crazy and shooting champagne all over the way, and is just like sort of taking it in, but like a somber take in, right? Like the we did it, but like the journey's over for that year, right? Like it's sort of like I'm sad it's over. He is, and I mean this with all respect, he's a sensitive soul. And so you go and you bench him and you're going to find that that's going to break him more than it's probably going to help him. Right. And
you have to manage the personalities 100%.
100%. Yeah. I mean, and everybody's different, right? Like you come and yell at me. I had coaches who were, what are you, stupid? It's like, well, I'm not taking that crap. I'm going to go out there and play harder now. You'll see. You can't manipulate me, that type of stuff. So, yeah, it's just you have to manage different personalities and you have to try to do it. I mean, that's why being a head coach is hard. I saw somebody on Twitter and it makes me laugh. I could coach this team. I guarantee we'd have more than one win. I guaranteed the players wouldn't listen to you. Nobody gives a crap who you are. You have there's a certain level that the players have to trust who the coach is. Now, we're getting into some dicey, weather here, which is if Greg Vanney can't figure out a way to get these guys to sort of start building confidence and start believing in the system and doing stuff, now you're looking at problems for next year. And that's a whole nother can of worms, right? And eventually the idea was that the second half with people healthy and the whole thing, that the Galaxy would start to pick it up. And with the guys they put on that were new, that just needed time. I mean, Nascimento hasn't had that many games and he's now going to be the starting striker. By the way, I don't know that I've seen that I personally felt like the Galaxy weren't going to win a game more than when Christian Ramirez came on. And I was like, oh, this game's over. Okay, cool. Didn't know that was a thing that I would feel at this moment, but that's what I feel at this moment, is that this game is over. And I don't feel like he fits into the system however he's supposed to fit. Maybe maybe that's a Galaxy problem. Maybe they're not getting the service. How many times do we see, Peck and Paintsville actually getting good service in? Most of the time they're trying to take shots from the outside. Those guys were crossing like crazy last year.
Yeah, and there's no one there to benefit. This is where I'll lift my hand up, say I was wrong with Ramirez there. I thought, okay, maybe you don't get the same as Jovic, but you get someone in the neighborhood. There's going to be, you're going to get goals that come out of it, and it's been very underwhelming from Ramirez from what we thought you were going to get out of it, and it goes back to the replacements, the players that they got rid of and they replaced with. They just have not been good enough, and Ramirez is right there with him, because Nascimento, to your point, is the starting striker, but I don't know that I have tons of faith to say Nascimento's my guy. I'm riding with him. He's someone who I'm gonna bet the farm and and lay the money down to say that he's gonna get the goal. I don't know that I'm that confident in him either, but out of the options, he's the best we've got right now.
Yeah. My whole thing is, and my meniscus hurt in the chat room there. Yet Christian leads the team in goals. Yeah, only not by any of his own doing. By the way, I will say this: I don't remember the last time he scored a goal. It was a long time ago. Okay, so that's certainly something to watch there. And it's just, again, we've talked about the offense not being very good this year, and that's sort of where it is. So we did have the Peck rumor in there. We do have to talk about the All-Star game a little bit, because why not? Mm-hmm. This is important stuff.
We finally did it.
Yeah, this was the congratulations, Galaxy fans. You finally accomplished. The main goal is not to have any LA Galaxy players in the All-Star game. It took 30 seasons to make it happen. This is the first time in LA Galaxy history that they haven't had an All-Star player in that. That in it of itself, I don't like the All-Star game. I don't think it's necessary. I understand why it's necessary from a league perspective. I don't like it from a sporting perspective. It's a waste of time. It's another game. It's another game to add minutes onto people's legs when you're already having a very busy. It's a meaningless game. You keep trying to give it meaning by playing Liga MX, right? And you're like, oh, eventually this will be a thing. I promise. Just keep waiting. Hang in there. The whole deal. And so they keep going for it. And but I feel like this is there's things that I feel like are damaging to brands sometimes, and I feel like this is one of those moments that's like damaging to the brand.
It's just an honor to be nominated, knowing that you're not going to win, but you still want to be in the conversation. The Galaxy dream, the Galaxy fan dream, is having a winning season, sitting top 3 in the West, and not having all-star votes, right? Because the fans game the system, so you're not wasting the extra game. I feel a little bit differently. I like the spectacle of it. I like the idea of recognizing someone who's had a killer first half of the season to say, hey, you're really on fire right now. We're going to recognize you for that. Let you get a little bit of a celebration, and not treat the game like it's super competitive. That's where I don't look at it like, oh, this is going to be a thing where you're going to have this heated rivalry every season. But I do think this is something to look forward to from a spectacle, point of view. And I do think that is, I do enjoy that piece. So to that, it does hurt to not have an LA Galaxy player in this lineup. We like the idea of this, but not like this, not sitting in last place and not having no one with being worthy of the call up. I kind of tipped maybe it was going to be a commissioner pick where you're going to have Garber do it. Right. But Garber's commissioner picks were Chucky Lozano and Patrick Agyemang. So maybe Agyemang's had some rumors that he might be gone to the championship. So maybe if he goes,
Marco Royce is in.
Yeah, maybe Marco Royce is next in line to get called in. But although I don't know how the stats back that up, but maybe there's still a little bit of hope to get an LA Galaxy player in there. But it is really an indictment on the Galaxy season that they don't have someone that's even worth the commissioner's pick to even out the lineups to have all the clubs representative. We don't even have someone that can sniff that, and that's a sad thing.
To show you how seriously MLS takes the All-Star game, they released the worst top in the history of tops. Now, Eric,
is this real? Is that AI?
It's not AI, because AI would have made it way more interesting. It looks like a training top. This is now
bad. That's really bad.
I know there's like a firework embossing that is actually on the white, but it's white on white. But you can't see that when they're running around the field. And just to contrast it, because I don't want to spend a ton of time, but just to contrast it, here's Mexico's jersey for the All-Star team, which is this green and black masterpiece. I want that one. That's the one I want to buy, Eric. You want to ask me which one I'm going to buy? One is I'm not buying either of them, but two, if I'm buying one, it's that one.
That's a beauty. Charlie always has real unique looking kits. So again, their kit provider is helpful there. The Adidas white shirt, that's rough. It's funny they mentioned in the branding of it, it's, hey, this is a firework top, and then you look at that, it's like, wait, this is the firework top? This white shirt that has one green side, one blue side, this is what says fireworks to you? There's not a sponsor on it, and again, there's people who don't like having a sponsor on the front, but even then, we can't have an MLS logo in the center, or we couldn't get a shirt sponsor to be in the middle. If you're going to have the plain white shirt, it's really this. I had a friend mention this looks like the Target MLS apparel where you go to buy shin guards for your 5-year-old, and Target just has kind of the generic MLS. Rob Lowe with the NFL logo. Like, I'm a supporter of MLS, not a particular team. That this feels like a Target kit. So totally missed the mark. And again, I understand you need a lighter kit to contrast if Liga MX is going with the green and the black, but you can do gray, you could do yellow, you could do something to make it a little more interesting. I thought that was that really, the league is struggling enough, and we're fighting to help the game grow and to help the league grow and to help MLS get respect, but that doesn't do us any favors because part of this is a branding thing. And last year you didn't have to like last year's, but they took a swing with the jerseys.
30th anniversary for Major League Soccer, and this is what they came up with. I can't. And as Mr. Bravino points out, it is the green, the blue of the old MLS logo. Like, that's what you decided to go with. I don't know. It's a little crazy for me. Let's get on to the LA Galaxy and salary information. We got salary information for the league. The first release this year felt way late this year, by the way, and it was. I think that they had delayed it whenever it came out this year. But if we're looking at overall team spending and guaranteed compensation, it is Inter Miami currently paying $46 million. And most of that, by the way, is Lionel Messi, just in case you were playing the home game and you didn't realize that. But $46 million.
Is that how they're paying all the money? That makes sense.
I think they are. The surprise right underneath them, by the way, was Toronto FC at $34 million. And they have two players on there who are taking up a considerable amount of money on their side of things, too. Bernadeschi, I think, is the high one on that. I think it's at 15, if I remember correctly, somewhere in that range. So a significant amount for Toronto FC as well. And Toronto has not had much success in what they were doing. So that's certainly one of them. You could look at Atlanta United at number 3 spot, FC Cincinnati at number 4, and the LA Galaxy at number 5. $22.87 million for the LA Galaxy, which is sort of interesting. Montreal, by the way, is the team that is closest to the LA Galaxy in points and is very, very, very far away in terms of salary. Their total salary spend at the bottom right now is just shy of $12 million. That's amazing. Basically, Toronto is paying Bernardeschi more money all by themselves than than all of Montreal. Philadelphia Union, one of the best teams in the league, $13.365 million, somewhere in there. Portland Timbers in that range as well. Real Salt Lake in that range. So there's a whole bunch of different ranges here. The LA Galaxy at 22.87 is an interesting one. So let's play our favorite game, which is cost per point, because that's always fun. I thought it
would cost per goal and cost per assist.
Cost per win would also be an interesting one for the LA Galaxy. But the LA Galaxy with 8 points are currently spending $2.858 million per point, which is the highest in the league. Toronto, who has a much higher payroll but has more points, is at $2.626 million per point. You want to see the best return on investment right now? It is the Philadelphia Union, spending just $361,000 for their per point, and they currently have 37 points in that. So not too bad in terms of what they're doing. And, Portland's in there, Vancouver's in there, Minnesota's in there, Columbus is in there, New York City, Orlando City, Nashville, Austin, San Diego. Those are the ones that are getting value. I mean, San Diego with their $19 million in guaranteed compensation is not light, but they're only spending $602,000 because they have so many points, right? Yeah. So
the same in Vancouver, obviously, is the one that stands out, sitting 28th in the league, and not until last night that they get uprooted from top of the West. But that is where it's kind of impressive. Okay, if it's possible, some of the teams can do it, but for whatever reason, the Galaxy haven't been able to unlock that.
No, let's drill into the LA Galaxy's salaries, because that's always fun. So basically, we have a bunch of different columns here. The yellow columns in there are the base salary and the guaranteed salary from 2024, and then to the right of that lighter, sort of teal blue, is the guaranteed 2025 salary. So what we can glean from this is that Ricky Puig actually got a significant increase in money. So $4.6 million last year, $5.7 million this year, $1.137 million raise for Ricky Puig year over year. That's going to be your biggest one. Some of these you can't take the difference on, because basically we didn't have a salary for him, but we can pull out Lucas Sanabria. We now know that he's making $695,000, so that's important. Zonka is making $600,000. That was a number that I think we expected. That was the number I expected anyway, whenever it came around to it. Nascimento is making $571,000, right? So you can sort of go through this. Christian Ramirez at $570. He basically picked up about $75,000 year over year from his salary last year to this year. You can look at somebody like Edwin Cerrillo, right, who gets a little bit of a bump in here too, making $537,000, and now it's $125,000 raise from the year before. The big subtraction in all of this is going to be Maya Yoshida. Maya Yoshida was at $893,334 in 2024. His salary this year is $526,261 on the guaranteed side, which means that he took a haircut of about $367,000 per year. That's
cut in half.
Yeah, that's significant. That's a significant hit. So that was in there. JT Marcinkowski was a number that we were sort of looking at, but his salary's at $250 right now. Again, $250 for a goalkeeper that's not getting any playing time, I would like to point out.
Third on the list.
Third on the list, but he was at $400. And now he's down to, he basically took $150,000 pay cut in order to come to the LA Galaxy whenever that happened. Miguel Berry with a raise in there of about $50,000. You had Eric Zavaleta, a rather significant raise, considering that he was on $90,000 last year and he's on $198,000 this year. So $108,000 raise for Eric Zavaleta. In terms of salary and bump, it's a 50% bump. Whenever it all comes, whenever all is said and done. Some of this probably has to do with bonuses and things that were hit from the year before. So
that's what it feels like. And this is where I want to make my correction as well, because we were talking about, okay, why Maya Yoshida, where are we bringing him back? Why, Zonka at the price that he had? I was thinking, well, we let someone like Jalen Neal go. Surely that could have been a like-for-like swap. Jalen Neal, I did look it up, 250,000 or 681,250 in guaranteed compensation. So he would have cost more than both Zonka and Yoshida. So there was something there. Shout out to Jalen. Time is finite. You have to get your checks where you can. So I totally understand that. So maybe if the Galaxy weren't going to be able to do that, then I understand why you needed to make some of these moves. And part of that could be why he was at a base of 600,000. And some of that guaranteed compensation could be because of MLS Cup and bumping that up. So my main takeaway from seeing some of these salaries, and it was something that I like to do every year, is who are your like for likes, where, okay, if we're paying, Miguel Berry this salary, who's the person who's making less that is giving you more on your return? And the thing that I was kind of poking around and looking at some of these other rosters and some of these other salaries is you're not really getting steals anymore in MLS. I think these salaries are increasing. I think the cap could still be raised. And I think we see with the Club World Cup where if they want to compete with other leagues globally, there is money that probably needs to be lifted to kind of make them competitive with other worlds. But you're not getting unless it's on a homegrown deal, you're not getting your players who, man, we're really getting a good deal on this player and they're giving us better results. What I'm seeing is the people who are worth having are generally, there's a cost that matches that makes it worth having. I think the league is kind of figuring out their value in the players that they're bringing in. You're not getting bargain basement deals on a lot of these players. If you want to build your defense, build your spine, build your core, you're going to need to pay for those positions. Unfortunately, I think given the Galaxy's defense and what Zonka and Yoshida have given you, even at a pay cut, you think, okay, well, certainly there are other teams who are within range. You can get some better center backs at comparable prices. Right. And that's where it falls apart. But I do think that the league in general, if there are players who are worth having, there's a cost associated with that, and I think that's the difference. You're not getting these steals unless it's on a homegrown.
100% there. Certainly looking at Adam, by the way, $5 super chat says, hey, did you go over Galaxy salaries? Zonka is the salary that stands out to me. I felt Vasquez didn't deserve to be an all-star. Only 5 goals. I mean, we can set the Vasquez thing aside. I thought Zonka was I figured that was exactly his salary. I figured it was right around the 550, 600,000, and that's what it was going to be. That's usually, we've seen enough players come over from Europe to know that this is probably what that range is going to be. And again, Eric, you're not getting any deals anymore, right? These things are everybody knows what their worth is. Everybody's getting paid sort of what they're supposed to be around. You could look at Harbor Miller, who's just a young player at $80,000, and you were getting a lot out of him at the beginning of the year. But again, so if he played,
who would have seen that coming?
Right. and also if he starts playing and he's playing well and he's suddenly getting minutes, he won't be $80,000 next year, right?
Yes,
like he's going to get a renegotiated contract. Next thing you know, he's going to be making $320,000. Like it's like, oh, okay.
And someone at another team who's not fifth on the list in terms of spending is going to be able to offer him that, hence the Jalen Neal Montreal situation that I was kind of describing. Right. Adam is correct in terms of Zonka standing out because of what you're getting at him. Okay, if you're bringing in someone who's going to make more than Yoshida, who's going to make within range of what you would have, paid someone like a Jalen Neal, then you want that to be your starting center back who's solid and you're going to get good performances. When you're getting a bench player at 600,000 and someone who's spotty at best in what Zonka has given him this season, that's where it hurts to say, okay, I understand why they were paying with the pedigree, playing in the Swiss national team, bringing the experience that he brings. Okay, I understand that price, but then when you see the results that we're getting from it, I understand the frustration on where Adam's coming from.
Yeah, I get it. By the way, Gus wants to remind us once again, $2, don't start Paintsel. He's going to start.
I love it, Gus. That's Gus's hill to die on.
It's one to be there. Let's see. Here's your schedule for the LA Galaxy coming up. Again, away at San Jose. We'll finish out the month of June. That's coming up on Saturday night. And then the LA Galaxy get 3 home games. One to be in the July 4th game, then July 12th, then July 16th. That is the 4th against Vancouver, the 12th against DC United, then the 16th against Austin. If you're looking for movement for the LA Galaxy, those would be the ones I would focus on, is to watch those home games. If the Galaxy can suddenly figure out how to win, which, by the way, they haven't, so I don't know why you would believe that. But if they figure out a way to win, that's when they could possibly get some momentum, is getting those 3 home games in a row. After San Jose, the LA Galaxy will have played 4 more away games than they had home games. you would expect, and it's been that way for most of the year where they've been chasing, you would expect that would lead them in a position where they would be shorter on points than maybe. Again, it's really hard to put it into perspective, but if you had a team that was like in 8th place right now, that you're the LA Galaxy, and you knew that you had played 4 more away games, you'd be sitting there going, there's points there for the Galaxy. Yeah, the stuff's coming. Like the home games will start to come, and that means more points because home teams in Major League Soccer tend to win more games. That's not necessarily the case for the LA Galaxy this year, but that would be something to watch. On the Eastern Conference, it is Philadelphia with 40 points and sitting up there atop everything right now. 40 points for them. FC Cincinnati at 36, Nashville at 35, Columbus at 34, Orlando at 33, Miami at 29. Miami's been put on pause because they've been away with Club World Cup, and now they go on. So don't expect that number to change anymore and other teams to start passing them. But you're going to look at that and say, they got 3 games to make up right now, and it's probably going to be closer to 4 or 5 by the time everything's done, right? So
that's going to be the curious thing with Miami in particular, is how are they going to handle that? And we talked about it last season. We caught them at the beginning of the year. Yep. We thought the wheels were eventually going to fall off. They did in the playoffs, maybe later than we expected. So how is this going to impact? Are the wheels going to fall off again? And is it going to come at an inopportune time once you get all those games close together with some of those aging stars there?
We head over to the Western Conference at San Diego. Everybody's making a real big deal about this game, and I will say that there are absences for Vancouver that I thought really hindered Vancouver in this game, and so you're sort of sitting there going, like, this is not. I saw a lot of statement made. I'm like, there was no statement made. You took advantage, which you should have done. You took advantage of a team that was missing. Really, with Vancouver, I feel like they're not as deep as some other teams, and so you have to sort of look at them and say, when they're not having their guys out there, that they're going to be.
Brian White's on a call up. He's the one who's been on fire.
Berhalter, I think, was away too, right? Yeah. So, I mean, there's some guys there who've played some big moments that, like, you're sort of like, okay, I get it. But that doesn't mean anything. So I like the fact that San Diego is going to beat their chest about this. I don't know that holds long term there. So
I'm waiting for their St. Louis, where they fold and start to kind of fold under pressure. That's coming, talking about the wheels kind of eventually falling off. I am with you. Every once in a while, and this is when you've been following the league, sometimes you just have games that are on drugs, and that's what that Vancouver-San Diego game was, where just someone caught fire, scored a bunch of goals in a short amount of time. I don't think that's something that player is going to consistently do. So it's just something to keep an eye on. That happens from game to game. The Galaxy's been on the positive side of games like that, and they've been on the opposite side of games like that too. That game is more of an anomaly than a statement. I'm with you there.
Let's go to the game coming up. The LA Galaxy taking on the San Jose Earthquakes. 7:30 p.m. is going to be your TV start time. 7:40 p.m. is going to be your kickoff. This game being played at Stanford Stadium. Supporters groups not going up in terms of any organized trips, so we'll see how many LA Galaxy fans up making that trip. San Jose was in one of those weird Dallas games. If you watched any of that, Dallas
weather delay here too.
Yeah, weather delay there for a little while, and then you got 2 red cards in that game for Dallas that eventually led to a 4-2 victory for the San Jose Earthquakes. But that makes it sound like it wasn't as close, because it was close for a little while there. It was sort of back and forth, and then San Jose came out as the victors on this. We look at San Jose, and they have some. I mean, Bruce Arena's done a really good job of just finding guys to like plug into. I mean, look at the top 3 in this with, Chicho Arango and Joseph Martinez, and then you have Espinosa over there as well. I mean, all 3 of those guys are outstanding players in Major League Soccer over their time. And so that's not an offense that you can sort of sleep on. And they can score goals, they can cause problems. You look at their midfield and everything that's going on there. They have players who can play.
Yeah. Ian Harkes is solid, even though, on that FOTMob rating, it doesn't show that he's great. Right. DeJuan Jones, someone who has shown good. The joke that I like to make, and I don't know how close we're going to get to the line on our PG-13 podcast here, but Bruce Arena is missionary position in Major League Soccer. It's gets the job done. It may not be the most exciting, but he knows how to have success in this league. And you look at that front 3, you look at that midfield, you look at, how he's going to be able to go in and grind through games. And this is just this has Bruce Arena's fingerprints all over the types of players that he's been able to bring in and have some moderate success in turning San Jose around. So again, you saw what they were able to do in Dallas, obviously the red cards or something, but scoring 4 goals. I'd love if the Galaxy accidentally scored 4 goals against a team with 9 players. I don't know that I can trust that team to do that. So that's the thing that scares me. I always say, who are the players that scare you? That front 3 right there. Chicho Arango, Joseph Martinez, Espinoza is someone who's killed the Galaxy in the past. So, I'm nervous heading into this game. Stanford Stadium, this is their yearly,
it's such a horrible place for a soccer
where they
game.
get to do their celebration. Ugh. So they always get up for this game. So, talking about what are they going to get out of this road trip is 1 point the max that they're going to get out of it, maybe 2. I don't have tons of confidence heading into this game.
Now it becomes a reaction game for the LA Galaxy, right? You played like crap in Colorado. You were up at altitude. You're doing the whole thing. I mean, the Galaxy are back. They're not doing any media before this game because it's such a quick turnaround, because it is Wednesday night to Saturday, and then Wednesday got pushed even later into the night. So, delayed everything by about another 2-3 hours by the time they get out. So it was this week is short for them. They will travel up on Saturday morning. So a Saturday morning arrival for the LA Galaxy up in San Jose. So basically get there, go to the hotel, change, go to the game, get out of there. It's one of those things. So it's up at Stanford Stadium, which is further away from the airport than if you just would have flown into, and then if they just would have played this game at PayPal.
You fly onto the field when you fly into the other stadium.
I think the private terminal's on that side too, so you could like walk across the street if that was the case. So that was that. This is the deal for me, is we don't have to get real crazy and real intellectual on this. Is that Bruce Arena is going to look to smash these guys right in the mouth, and the LA Galaxy want to play like they played in Colorado, and they'll lose this game 4-0. It'll be over real fast. So come out with the intensity that you did against Colorado, and you'll be walking home with your tail between your legs. And whether or not it just championship seasons are weird, Eric, in that a lot of things work out for you. And so sometimes that can almost feel like it's easy to do that, except those guys had to work really hard at the beginning of the season to sort of prove that. And somehow they've lost that sort of understanding of how hard you have to work in order to win a game. And so this is a great opportunity to remember that, because this is a difficult game. You're playing against a quote unquote rival. And listen, it's not so much a rivalry as it is the position the Galaxy find themselves in, which is we need points and we're embarrassing ourselves. And this needs to stop.
Yeah, it's a rivalry, and it means a lot to the San Jose fan base. They always love, and maybe I don't know if I'm right or wrong for saying this, doing it on this Stanford Stadium game is the game that they circle on their calendar. This is the one that they want to win more than other. Not that they don't want to win at Dignity Health Sports Park, which they've already done this season. They didn't play them that long ago. But this is the one where you lay it all on the line. You play for the badge, even if the results and standings, you don't look at those in this particular game. So I think that's something you have to look out for. They're going to get up for it. Where the Galaxy need to be careful, we saw what happened when they had a lot of possession and had nothing to show for it, where San Jose is really dangerous. We talked about that front 3 is on the counterattack. Yeah. So if they possess and they don't take care of their chances, they're going to get run right through, especially with the defense that's been shaky. Take your bets on who's going to get in behind, Yoshida and Garces and, Nelson or whoever they put out there. I would bet that San Jose is going to be able to get in behind them. So I think you're really going to need to stand strong to hopefully, avoid having it get ugly. I think that's how sad is that? That's where I'm looking at. Yeah. I just don't want this game to get ugly. That's where I'm coming into it.
I think if you're looking for one player who could have a good game for the LA Galaxy, I'm going to put it on Lucas Sanabria. Run himself into the ground in the altitude and had a bad game, and he's been okay. And I think the Galaxy need him to be better. So I think maybe he could have a good game in that position. That's sort of my prediction on that. By the way, the last thing you wanted to hear was that the guy who's going to have the best game is going to be your defensive midfielder, right?
Yeah. And your defensive midfielder who's redundant with your other defensive midfielder and Edwin Cerrillo. I still think they're the same guy. I think you need when you talked about when Ricky comes back, he's going to be training, off on the field soon. Who gets replaced? It's not Marco Royce to me. To me, it's Sanabria or Cerrillo. Yeah. And I think that's where you make the change, because I think they do a lot of the same thing. I think a lot of the Galaxy's issues right now come from having two players who fill the same role. And, as much as I like Cerrillo and I like what I'm starting to see from Sanabria, I think they do the same thing, and that's a problem for the Galaxy.
Let's get to D ratings, and then we can get everybody on the way out here. Actually, there's two things that we want to sort of close with, too, so I want to make sure that we get to those. The LA Galaxy here, listen, the 54% chance of winning for San Jose, right? What do you see from this, Eric?
Yeah, when you always mention it, whenever it's close to 50%, that's where you have a chance, and the Galaxy well under that from getting a point. San Jose, heavy favorites on this one when you look at the Vegas odds. San Jose minus 115, so at negative odds there. The Galaxy at plus 268. So again, doesn't look good. Vegas says that it's going to be all San Jose. D rating says that it's going to be San Jose. Everything goes into it. You look at the projected goals. It looks like San Jose is going to take care of this easily. So not looking good. The only thing that you probably have coming out of this is this the response game? You went and got embarrassed in Colorado and did not look good. So what better way? We talk about this all the time. When you talk to players, what do they want to do? They want to go out and play another game as soon as possible. So here is your shortest turnaround that you're probably going to have all season long to go out there and try to change the narrative on how you've been doing and get that first away win. Again, not hopeful, though, based on those odds.
Right. Predictions guaranteed to be wrong. I'll go first this time. We usually make you go first, so I'll do it. The Galaxy loses game 3-1. Thank you very much. Have a nice day. All right, your turn, sir.
Really bad pod. I have the exact same thing in my notes. There's nothing about that last performance that gave me any hope. San Jose's coming off an away win, and this is their big extravaganza. I think we lose 3-1 also.
Mr. Provino says Romney scores a goal. Bruce will score a goal. I think you're forgetting about Preston Judd comes on and scores a goal.
Preston Judd off the bench. Yeah, scores the cigar right there.
Yeah. Bruce Arena heads one in from the bench. That's what's going to happen on that. Two things is, one, do you like popcorn? Are you like a movie popcorn guy?
I love popcorn.
Okay. Yeah. I have been on a quest to find to make my own movie popcorn at home, right? And I've tried different microwave popcorns that this is movie popcorn. They never taste it's close.
It's not the same. You have to recognize it for what it is. A Pop Secret movie theater butter.
Right.
That's a staple in this household. We're always stocked. We're always stocked with that.
100%. So I was watching TikTok, which is a bad thing all on its own because it'll get you into place. And somebody goes, this is why your popcorn that you make at home doesn't taste like it. And so he went through the steps of what they use for it. So I went on Amazon, bought those things exactly, and I made movie popcorn today. It tastes like movie popcorn.
Okay.
It's
Are
as
you
close.
sharing the recipe? This is what we're doing here.
So it is a coconut oil butter flavor thing, right? They don't use real butter.
Okay.
Well, of course they wouldn't. Why would they do it, right?
Yeah.
And so you have to use, I think I use a quarter cup of this coconut oil that's it looks like lard, right? It's solid, right? So you scoop it out, you put it in the thing, you heat it up in the thing. And then there's this thing called they don't use salt for the flavoring. No, why would you do that? I think it's called Flavacor. And it comes in a milk jug, right? But it's granules, but it's granules of salt. Yes. So then you take that, and I think I put a tablespoon of that inside it. You heat everything up. You tip in about 3/4 of a cup of popcorn of your unpopped kernels there. You get it all. You make an absolute mess in the kitchen. First time I was like, Jesus, where's all this stuff going to go? So anyway, I'd just like to point out that there is hope if you too love movie popcorn. You can figure out this recipe. You can do it. You can get it to taste just like it does in the movie theater. So anyway.
Wow. Yeah. What a statement on the 2025 LA Galaxy. That's our big button on where we're finishing it is movie theater popcorn. That's the exciting thing that we have to look forward to.
It's not. And the thing I really wanted to close things out with, and certainly, I think people have seen it going around, but Joe Cicino put out something about Ronaldo Gonzalez, who is a Latin voice for the LA Galaxy and everything else. I mean, a Spanish legend whenever it comes to radio broadcasts and everything else, passed away. And Joe Cicino wrote out, "Rest in paradise to my colleague on the Spanish side of the Galaxy broadcast. Ronaldo and I hosted the very first LA Galaxy championship celebration and offered each other good luck for each of our shows when we'd see each other. A great loss. My condolences to the Gonzalez family and his KW colleagues." And it's one of these things that you look at that the people, and so often, whether it's players, it could be, we were talking about Landon Donovan at the beginning of the last show. Whether it's the voices, Joe Cicino is the soundtrack of my LA Galaxy, watching. these people, Vin Scully, whenever it comes to these things, but these people connect you to the sport that you love and the team that you love. And so our condolences go out to the Gonzalez family as well. And from all accounts, and while I think I've met him in passing a couple times, there was never a time where we stopped to talk. But it, by all accounts, was a wonderful man. So rest in paradise there, Ronaldo Gonzalez, and to all his family, we send our condolences. Anything you want to add to that, Eric? You're more than welcome to.
Yeah, so. Just condolences. You mentioned it. Vin Scully, Joe Tutino, Chick Hearn, Bob Miller with the LA Kings. These are voices that are synonymous with your teams and those memories. Joe Tutino mentioned it, being at the championship parade and kind of sharing those moments. I think especially given with what's going on in the world right now and Spanish-speaking voices and the connection that the LA Galaxy fan base, how much of that is a Spanish-speaking fan base, and how do they listen to games? How do they go through it? It's through the Spanish announce, that goes through it. So I think that's something where it's a big hit. Shout out and salute to going through it and being such a huge part of that for so many people who listened, and just condolences to the family, because those are memories that you remember and voices that people have that are forever going to be connected to those championships, to spending time with your parents, spending time with your loved ones, with your children, and those connections are always going to be there. So you just have to be thankful that you were able to kind of give people those moments.
With that, of course, we'll turn the page. Remind you, the LA Galaxy will be playing against San Jose coming up on Saturday night. Once again, the game is a 7:30 p.m. TV start time on MLS Season Pass. 7:40 p.m. is supposed to be your kickoff, so we'll watch that and update it as it goes. A shout out to Jamie over at the LA Galaxy for keeping me updated on the delays and everything that was going on with the game. That wasn't easy, but she was on top of it, texting me, letting me know, so that way I could let you guys know as well. So appreciate that whenever those are difficult circumstances. By the way, everybody knows once lightning hits, and it's within a certain, that restarts a 30-minute clock every time, 30-minute clock. So there was a lot of that last night. So appreciate it. And I think I appreciate everybody hanging out with us tonight. So anything else, Mr. Eric, that you'd like to get to before we get out of here?
No, we're in the dark times right now, so have patience. These moments happen. We're in a valley right now, but the only way that championships feel good and wins feel good is when you know the agony of how far you've gone and been in the depth. So we talked about this last year with the championships, and soak it in, appreciate it for what it is, because it doesn't happen all the time, and also understand that this happens, and sometimes what makes the wins feel so much better is when you have these valleys. So it's all part of the process. Dare I say, trust the process.
You will get chased down in public for it. Just would like to let you know. I was trying to bring up one of the sweet melancholy of and I never remember. It's from Elizabethtown, which is one of my favorite movies, and everybody hates it. So that makes it my favorite movie even more. All right, Eric, tell people where they can find you. Let's go.
All right, you can find me on all the social media at HammerEV9. That's Hammer EV and the number 9.
All right, if you're looking for me on any of the socials at Galaxy Podcast, cornerofthegalaxy.com, head on over to any of your iTunes, your Apple Podcasts, your Soundclouds, any of those places. That's where you can find Corner of the Galaxy. Like, subscribe, do all those fun things, and we will be back on Monday to talk about this game that happened on Saturday. Have a great weekend, everybody. Enjoy. 4th of July is just around the corner. Galaxy almost back home. There it is. The famous Joseph Hansel bobblehead finally making the appearance now that we got everything fixed. All right. For Mr. Eric, the Portuguese Hammer Vieira, I'm Josh Pato Guesman. You've been listening to our little Corner of the Galaxy. Have a great one, everybody.
You've been listening to the Corner of the Galaxy podcast on cornerofthegalaxy.com. You can follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at Galaxy Podcast. And be sure to check out and subscribe to iTunes, Stitcher, and Facebook by searching for Corner of the Galaxy. Fans, we thank you for listening. We ask that you be kind and courteous to your neighbors as you leave the podcast. We thank you for joining us and look forward to seeing you again. Until then, I'm Michael Araujo, and on behalf of the entire Corner of the Galaxy crew, goodbye, everybody.